Scarlett stood there in a low-cut dress. Her figure stunning and her features delicate and refined. Mia peeked half her head out from behind my back. All feisty bluff but trembling underneath. I twisted toward her and muttered. "Quit hiding behind me. Go give her hell." Mia's voice came out in a shaky whisper. "She's so pretty and so curvy. Don't you always like girls with more up top?" I drew a blank. It was 9 in the morning. I was walking toward my desk with a coffee in hand when I passed the break room and heard Mia holding forth inside. Third rule in the company dress code: no excessively revealing clothing. Just how low is that neckline? 3 centimeters below your collarbone. Have you even measured it? I poked my head in. Mia was wearing an oversized shirt repurposed from one of my old ones. Sleeves rolled up to her forearms. She held her phone up high. And on the screen was a slideshow made from online clothing store product photos. Labeled dress code reference approved by CEO Liam. Zoe, the front desk receptionist, was cornered by the break room door. Her face bright red as she self-consciously tugged at her neckline. "Mia, I really didn't think it was that bad today." "Didn't think what was bad?" Mia shoved the phone screen right in front of her face. "Look at this. Approved by Mr. Hale. Clear as day. Low-cut tops. Mini skirts. Backless dresses, none of them are allowed. I'm doing you a favor. You've only been here 3 months. Don't go stepping on landmines." I walked over and glanced at her phone screen. It was the collection of loungewear product photos we'd browsed together the night before. She'd said she wanted to pick up some summer pajamas and insisted I tell her which ones looked best. I'd pointed at 2 at random. And she'd saved the screenshots and edited them to look like official CEO-approved guidelines. "Mia." She turned around. Her eyes lighting up when she saw me. But she kept up the act. "Mr. Hale. Perfect timing. Look at this. Those are the pajama listings you made me look at last night, aren't they?" Zoe's face lit up. Before Mia could react, she slipped past me and bolted. Her footsteps echoed fast down the hall, followed by the sharp click of a door slamming shut at the end of the corridor. Mia stood there with her mouth hanging open for a second, then jammed her phone back into her pocket with a huff. The fierce, ruthless supervisor act vanished in an instant. She marched over in 2 steps and pinched my arm. "Liam, could you be any less helpful? You couldn't have played along for 10 more seconds." "Great. Now I've lost all my authority around here. I haven't even gotten onto you for editing my screenshots into a fake company presentation. So what?" She stood on her tiptoes, leaning in close with a grin. "You're my husband. What's wrong with using your name a little? It's called marital property. Including my company." "Including?" She nodded defiantly. "What's yours is mine. And what's mine is still mine." I took a sip of coffee, watching her smug little smile. Mia had a round face and big eyes, with a dimple on her left cheek when she smiled. When she wasn't smiling, she looked surprisingly intimidating. New hires always bought her tough supervisor vibe at first. But once they got to know her, they realized she was all bark and no bite. "Sure." I turned and headed for my office, coffee in hand. "Bandit." She chased after me and looped her arm through mine, grinning. "Then you're the bandit, chief. We're 2 of a kind. No takebacks." I laughed at her ridiculous logic and shook my head, helpless. At noon, we went to the sushi restaurant downstairs from the office. Mia sat across from me, shoving a piece of salmon belly into her mouth. Her cheeks puffed out like a hamster's. She never cared about looking proper when she ate. A drop of soy sauce was about to fall onto the table, so I grabbed a napkin and handed it to her. "Wipe your mouth." She mumbled something in agreement, took the napkin, dabbed carelessly at her lips, and reached for a second piece. My phone buzzed. It was Noah. Noah was my college roommate, now working in venture capital. He always had the latest gossip. I unlocked my phone. It was a voice note, plus a photo. The picture showed Scarlett sitting in the lobby cafe of the office building next door, wearing a cream trench coat, staring down at her phone. It wasn't the clearest shot, but I recognized her instantly. 3 years apart. And she looked even more polished than before. I hit play on the voice note. Noah's voice was a low whisper. "Dude, your old flame's back in town. Ran into her in my lobby today. She was asking about you. What's the deal?" I frowned and locked my phone immediately. Mia was halfway through her 3rd piece of salmon, cheeks still full. When she looked up at me. Who was that? Noah. I set my phone face down on the table. Keeping my tone even. Said he got a new girlfriend. She cooks. Packs him lunch every day. No way. Mia's eyes went wide. Noah the player. Actually dating someone who cooks for him. MHM. Girls got bad taste. Then, Mia took another bite of salmon. With Noah. All you get is a pretty face and nothing else. You've got a pretty face too. I said. Just not much going on upstairs. What's that supposed to mean? Last month you tried to cook and almost burned the kitchen down. Remember that? Mia grinned at me. A smudge of wasabi on her lip. Her dimple showing. That was an accident. I'll be more careful next time. I promise. I picked a sweet shrimp from her plate and dropped it into my bowl. She scrunched up her nose in annoyance. But didn't try to take it back. Instead, she flagged down the waiter to order another portion. Muttering. Bandit chief. Bandit queen. She snickered and reached across the table. Determined to steal a piece of tamagoyaki from my bowl. Midday sun streamed through the windows. And the restaurant hummed with chatter. Mia sat across from me. Mouth full of food. Arguing with me about the ancient history of who chased who first. Iwachitea. She'd put on a little weight since the first time we met. Probably from eating so well after we got married. Her eyes were still just as big. And when she smiled, her whole face lit up. A thought crossed my mind. Every dish on this table combined wasn't half as pretty as she was. But if I said that out loud, she'd be insufferable for 3 whole days. She caught me staring. What are you looking at? Nothing. I said. Just eat your food. I am eating. Her mouth was so full she could barely talk. Why do you keep staring? Is there rice on my face? No. Then why are you looking? I looked away and dropped another piece of salmon into her bowl. Just wondering if you'll want more after you finish that plate. Sure enough. The distraction worked. She glanced down at her plate and mumbled. Maybe add an order of Arctic surf clam you're paying today. Right. When am I not paying? Fair point. She waved the waiter over with a grin. Another order of surf clam. And 1 eel too. Please. She went back to shoveling salmon into her mouth. Then mumbled. You looked all constipated when you checked your phone just now. Sure nothing's wrong. Nothing. My face twitched. I picked up my teacup. Turning Noah's words over in my head. Scarlett was back. But that was all over a decade ago. Ancient history. 3 days later. I was in my office going over reports when my secretary knocked and stepped in. Mr. Hale. There's a Ms. Voss here to discuss a partnership. She doesn't have an appointment. I frowned. Which firm is she with? Horizon Group. She's their regional business director. She said. She's an old acquaintance of yours. I paused for 2 seconds. Send her in. The door opened and Scarlett walked in. She was even prettier in person than in the photo. Wearing a beige pantsuit. Heels. Her hair pulled back in a sleek updo. Makeup flawless. She smiled at me. Liam. Long time no see. Ms. Voss. I stayed seated behind my desk. Have a seat. She sat down across from me and set a proposal folder on the desk. Sliding it toward me. Her movements were calm. Elegant. I'm here representing Horizon to discuss a regional partnership. She said. Her voice lower and steadier than I remembered. I know your company is expanding into the southern market. And Horizon's supply chain resources could be a real asset to you. I opened the proposal and flipped through it page by page. It was solid work, detailed data. Clear logic. Exactly the standard I'd expect from Horizon. Partnerships go through the formal process. I closed the folder and slid it back to her. Legal review. Project approval. Bilateral negotiations. We do things by the book. Scarlett smiled. Since when do we play by the rules? You and me. Since now. My tone didn't shift. I held her gaze. She looked much the same as I remembered, polished smile. Warm eyes. Liam. She leaned forward slightly. Her fingers resting on the cover of the proposal. I didn't come back just for business. Ms. Voss. You can call me Scarlett. Ms. Voss. I repeated the title firmly. This is a professional meeting. She held my gaze. Her smile fading a little. She leaned back in her chair and pulled the proposal back toward her. Fine. She said. I'll have my legal team send over the official documents. All right. She stood up. Halfway to the door. She paused and glanced back. Oh. By the way, I ran into your wife in the elevator this morning. She looked like she was arguing with someone. Interesting. My face stayed neutral. She takes her work seriously and holds her team to high standards. Scarlett gave a soft laugh and let herself out. After the door closed, I opened the window to air out the room. I sat back down and texted Noah. Tell her one more thing about where I am or what I'm doing. And we're done. Noah replied instantly. Dude. I swear. She asked me. All I said was what building you work in. Done. Come on. I'll buy you dinner. Come on. Man. I didn't reply. I set my phone face down on the desk. 30 seconds later. I picked the proposal back up and jotted follow standard protocol in the partner section. Less than 2 minutes after Scarlett left. The office door creaked open a crack. Mia poked her head in first, sniffing the air like a dog. Then squeezed her whole body inside. Why does it smell like perfume in here? She wrinkled her nose and walked toward me, circling me once like a curious puppy. Who were you just meeting with? A business partner. Guy or girl? Girl. Pretty. I kept my eyes on my paperwork. Average. Mia slammed a hand on my desk. Average. She pulled her phone out of her pocket, tapped it a few times, and held it up to my face. It was Scarlett's LinkedIn profile picturia professional headshot that made her look pale and slim. This is average. Then what am I? Some potato dug out of a ditch. I looked up at her. Mia stood in front of my desk, all puffed up and indignant. Her cheeks rounded with annoyance. Where'd you get her photo? I looked her up. Mia said defiantly. I ran into her in the elevator. She said she was here to talk business with you. So I searched her up. Hey. Don't change the subject. You called her average. Does that make me a potato? I set down my pen and reached out, catching the hand she'd been tapping on the desk. She froze for a second. Mia. I said. What? There's nothing between her and me. Nothing ever could be. She blinked. There wasn't 3 years ago. I held her gaze. And there sure as hell isn't now. Mia's mouth fell open a little. Her big, wide eyes slowly softened. And her eyes turned red. She looked away from me, sniffling. Who asked you anyway? You did. I didn't. It's written all over your face. She went quiet again. Just standing there with her hand still in mine. All the fight gone out of her. The feisty, fiery Mia from 2 minutes ago was gone. Replaced by a sad, droopy little puppy. I tugged her hand and pulled her over to me. Last week you dropped my switch. Did I yell at you? No. Last month you overwrote my game save I'd been building for 6 months. Did I yell at you? That was an accident. Last quarter your department doubled its revenue. I praised you for that. Didn't I? She finally looked back at me. Eyes still red. But the corner of her mouth starting to lift. You did. So. I let go of her hand and instead pinched her cheeks, pulling the soft flesh outward a little. You're my queen. You hear me? Always. The first time I'd said Mia's my queen was during our wedding vows. The officiant had told us to speak from the heart. Everyone else said things like I'll love you forever. I'd taken the mic and said, Mia's my queen. And I'll always let her have her way. The whole room had burst out laughing. Mia had stood there in her wedding dress, half mad, half amused, shaking her fist at me. It had been her official title ever since. With her cheeks still squished between my fingers. She finally broke into a laugh and swatted at my hand. Let go. You're gonna make my cheeks bigger. They're already this big. Liam. She launched herself at me, wrapping both arms tight around my neck and burying her face in my shoulder. Her voice came out muffled. Bandit Chief. MHM. Do you really think she's just average? Average. More average than me. You're louder than the average person. I said. So she's average. You're one of a kind. She huffed a laugh against my shoulder, then lifted her head. The tip of her nose was still pink, but her eyes were bright again. She leaned in, pouting. Her intention obvious. Mia. We're at the office. No one's looking. The door's open. I don't care. She leaned in anyway and pressed a quick kiss to the corner of my mouth. Then pulled back, grinning and swaying a little where she hung off my neck. Bandit Chief belongs with his bandit queen. Get off. Nope. I have a meeting. Then go have it. She let go and hopped off my lap, bouncing toward the door. Halfway there, she turned back and blew me a kiss. Best husband ever. The door clicked shut, and the office fell quiet. I sat back in my chair and rubbed the bridge of my nose. My queen. She could raise hell 1 minute, and be won over with a single lollipop the next. Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Scarlett came by with the revised contract from her legal team. Some clauses need to be discussed in person. I went through the contract. And sure enough, there were a few points to hash out. I pointed them out to her. She took notes. Cooperative throughout. We wrapped up at 6:10. Scarlett closed her notebook. It's almost dinner time. Want to grab a bite too? Family dinner, I said. My wife's cooking. Scarlett smiled faintly. Next time. Then, Friday, 5:40 p.m. Scarlett showed up again. Legal sent over a new version of the clauses we discussed. I was in the area, so I dropped it off for you to look over. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, took the document, flipped through a couple pages, and scheduled a formal follow-up for Monday. She glanced at her watch. It's the weekend. Anyway, I made a reservation at that sushi place. My wife's waiting for me outside. Scarlett glanced out the window. Across the street, Mia was standing in line at a boba shop, craning her neck to read the menu, the hem of her light green dress fluttering in the wind. She looked back at me and smiled. All right, then. See you Monday. Monday came. Scarlett didn't bring a contract. She walked in, closed the proposal folder on my desk, and looked straight at me. Liam, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I leaned back in my chair and waited. I was young and stupid when I turned you down back then. She said. Now I want to try again. I don't care that you're married. I can wait. She sat there watching me after she said it. Her face calm, like she'd rehearsed the line 100 times. I frowned at her, then rolled my chair back up to the desk. Scarlett. Yeah. When I was 20, I liked you. It was a kid's crush, I said. But the day I married Mia, that was the clearest, best decision I ever made. She pressed her lips together. I chose her. She's not some second-best consolation prize. But you've got a great career. You're stunning. There are tons of amazing single people who'd be lucky to have you. I cut her off. Wasting your time on a married man isn't worth it. You once told me we're not right for each other. Now I'm saying it back to you, we never were. Not back then. And not now. Scarlett's eyes reddened. She sat there, running her thumb back and forth along the edge of the proposal folder. Her mouth set in a tight line. After 10 seconds or so, she stood up and started gathering her papers. I don't believe you. She held the files to her chest and looked up at me. I don't believe you don't feel anything for me at all. I said nothing. She stared at me for a moment longer, then turned and left. The click of her heels on the floor was sharp and steady, fading down the hall until I heard the elevator doors slide open and shut at the end of the corridor. I picked up the desk phone and called reception. If Ms. Voss comes by again, she goes through the normal business booking process. No more walk-ins. The receptionist hesitated. Mr. Hale. What if it's official Horizon Group business? Official business goes through official channels. Anything else follows the rules. Understood. I hung up and sat there for a minute, glancing out the window. Mia was no longer in line at the boba shop. She must have gotten her drink already. I couldn't see her, but I could picture her perfectly, sipping her boba as she walked down the street. I tidied up the papers on my desk and checked the time. 6:20. Time to go home. Mia had been stopping by my office a lot more often lately. She used to head straight out after work, but this past week, she'd been drifting past my office door around 6 every evening. She'd peek through the blinds for a second, then leave without coming in. I didn't think much of it at first. Then twice, she'd shown up right as Scarlett was walking out of my office. She'd stand around the corner of the hallway, pretending to answer a text, and only poke her head out once Scarlett was in the elevator. At night when we got home, she'd still throw her arms around my neck and kiss my cheek, saying, "Honey, I'm starving like always." But at dinner, she was noticeably quieter. Normally she'd ramble through her entire day from start to finish what she had for breakfast, how a coworker complimented her new dress, every tiny detail. I glanced at her but said nothing. After dinner she washed the dishes while I watched a game in the living room. Normally she'd have plopped down next to me by now, fighting for the remote and complaining I don't want to watch soccer. Put on a variety show. Tonight. After finishing the dishes, she curled up on the other end of the couch scrolling through her phone. The screen lit up her face, and she looked focused. I glanced over, her thumb was swiping back and forth on the same page, not scrolling down for half a minute straight. That night in bed, she slept facing away from me, her breathing soft and shallow. I reached over to put my arm around her, and her shoulders tensed up. She didn't roll over to snuggle into me like she usually did. "Mia," I whispered. Nothing. Go to sleep." She didn't turn around. My queen was hurting, overthinking all on her own. And she wouldn't tell me. The third morning, Mia stood in front of the full-length mirror, tying my tie for me. "There. Done. Mia." I held her hand still. "You've said 47 words to me total in the last 3 days." She blinked. "You counted. Normally you say 200 before breakfast." "I'm not a talking parrot. Did you get a canker sore?" "No." "Then you're hiding something from me." "I'm not." She pulled her hand away and turned to grab her bag, moving faster than usual. She'd barely taken 2 steps before I pulled her back and pressed her gently in front of the mirror. Our reflection stared back at us. "Did you see Scarlett coming to see me?" Mia froze. I watched her face tighten in the mirror. The corner of her mouth tugged down. Then she forced it back up into a smile. "It's just work. Right?" she said. "I know that. I'm not unreasonable." "Then why were you crying into your pillow last night?" She went still. "You think I didn't hear you tossing and turning, trying to be quiet?" In the mirror, her eyes flooded with red, and her whole face crumpled. She looked away, too upset to meet her own reflection. Her voice barely a whisper. I just feel like." "Feel like what?" She's so pretty. Tears finally spilled down Mia's cheeks, dropping one by one onto the mirror. "And she's so well spoken, and you used to like her. You two talk business every day. What if you start thinking I'm too loud? Too annoying?" I turned her around to face me. "Mia." She looked up at me, sniffling, tears streaking her face. "Mia. The day before yesterday, I told Scarlett straight to her face that marrying you was the best, clearest decision I ever made." I cupped her face, wiping the tears away with my thumbs. "Want me to say it again right now? Record it. Post it on social media. Pin it to the top. Will that be enough?" Her lip trembled, tears still clinging to her lashes. But the corner of her mouth already started to lift. "Really? Really? Say it again. My wife is the best decision I ever made. Again. Mia. Don't push your luck. Say it. Say it." She clung to me, rubbing her tear-streaked face into my neck. "Last time. I mean it. Last time." I sighed, looking at her reflection in the mirror, clinging to me like a koala. "My wife is the best decision I ever made." She finally broke into a smile. She threw her arms around my neck and kissed my cheek hard, her voice hoarse but bright. "Best bandit chief ever." She fixed my lopsided tie, nodding with satisfaction. "Handsome. Bandit queen. Bandit chief." She stood on her tiptoes and kissed me again, then turned to grab her bag, bouncing out of the bedroom. Mia went back to her usual chatty self, but every now and then she'd zone out staring at her phone. Wednesday night, I finished up my emails and settled on the couch to watch the game. 10 minutes in, something felt off. Normally by this time, Mia would have trotted out in her cartoon nightgown, either curled up next to me scrolling her phone or flopping across my lap begging for back scratches. Tonight the living room was eerily quiet. The bedroom door was closed. I glanced over. The light was on inside. I was wondering what on earth she was doing in there when the bedroom door clicked open. I took a sip of water and looked up. I immediately spat the water straight back out. There stood Mia in a tight black silk slip dress, one strap slipping down her arm. Her hair was down. She usually wore it in a bun or a ponytail, but tonight it fell loose over her shoulders in soft waves. Her eyeliner was drawn on thick, and her lipstick was a bright, shocking red. I froze, staring at her getup. She walked toward me in heels, swaying her hips dramatically. "Honey," her voice was syrupy sweet, dripping with fake seduction. I shuddered. Every hair on my arm stood on end. What do you think of me tonight?" She reached out, tapping my chest twice with her fingertip. I stared at her. Deadpan. Mia. What the hell has gotten into you? What do you mean? Honey. She lowered her voice and winked. Don't you think I look bigger up top tonight? She cupped her chest, which she'd patted from a B to a D cup. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them, I felt like I was facing the greatest challenge of my life. Do you think I don't know what size you are? What's the point of all that patting? But the internet says guys love this stuff. Mia twisted her index fingers together, avoiding eye contact, her voice trailing off. Mia. I cut her off. Yeah. Come here. She shifted nervously, taking 2 small steps until she stood right in front of me. I reached out, grabbed the neckline of her dress, and tugged it down. Ah. She yelped, scrambling to cover herself. I pulled 2 thick silicone bra inserts out from her dress and tossed them onto the couch. Liam. Her face turned bright red as she tried to grab them back. Give those back. They're my gear. Gear. My ass. I pulled her closer, staring at her face. Ruined by all that heavy makeup? This is what you've been sneaking around doing. Socialité etiquette classe. That soft seductive makeup garbage. She stared at her shoes, twisting her fingers together again, and mumbled. I just signed up for one class. It came with a free makeup set, and they taught you to make yourself look like a ghost. It's not a ghost. She looked up, her eyes a little red. I wanted to try. What if you like this kind of thing better? Scarlett looks so nice like that. She sniffled. Soft. Quiet. She doesn't even make a sound when she walks. I can't do any of it. I almost tripped walking in these heels. And my voice sounds so weird. I practiced winking all afternoon too, as she said it. She tried to wink at me, but she blinked both eyes at once, like she was trying to signal something secret. I said nothing. See? I told you I can't do it. She deflated completely, her shoulders slumping. I'm so useless. I don't even have what it takes to be a homewrecker. I looked at her. Come here. I sighed. She didn't move, still sniffling. I reached out and pulled her into my lap. She stiffened for a second, then relaxed, burying her face in my chest. Mia. Listen to me. What? Her voice was muffled. When I married you, I knew exactly who you were. I pinched her earlobe gently. I love that you eat like you're starving. I love that you fight me for the remote. I love that you stand there with your hands on your hips yelling at people. If I wanted some fake, perfect little doll who never says a word, I could have just bought a blow-up doll and called it a day. Why would I go through all the trouble of marrying you? Mia snickered into my chest and punched me lightly. Who are you calling a blow-up doll? You. She lifted her head from my chest. So I can stop pretending. This dress is so tight I can barely breathe. Go change. Now. But I spent hundreds on that class. It wasn't a waste. I stood up and herded her toward the bedroom. At least now I know for sure I like you best in t-shirts and sweatpants. Way cheaper. Too. Liam. You cheapskate. Her indignant yell came from the bedroom, followed by the thud of a pillow hitting the door. I sat on the couch, listening to that familiar racket, and smiled to myself. The next afternoon at 3, I walked out of a meeting and past Mia's department. Normally by this time she'd have poked her head out already, either waving and yelling honey, get me a boba, or chasing after me with papers, complaining Jake messed up the reports again, or she'd just drift past my office door, peek through the blinds for a second, and leave. Today the hallway was empty. I stood there for 2 seconds, glancing toward her desk. Her computer screen was on, but the chair was empty. Her insulated mug was still on her desk, her phone charger draped over the edge. She was gone. I went back to my office, sat for 10 minutes, and checked my phone. No messages from her. Normally she'd send me 40 texts a day. Everything from guess what I had for breakfast to my new shoes are giving me blisters. Every tiny detail. Today. Nothing. I called her. It rang 6 times before she picked up. Hello. Her voice sounded far away, like she was in some big, empty space. Where are you? At work. The background was dead quiet. Why? Nothing. Weren't you going to finance this afternoon? Got rescheduled. Tomorrow. She laughed a little. You checking up on me? Yeah. Checking up on nothing. I'm not going anywhere. All right. I've got stuff to do. Gotta go. The call ended. I frowned at the screen. Call duration, 1 minute. 18 seconds. Normally our shortest calls lasted 5 minutes. I called a second time. It rang once. Then went straight to voicemail. 2 seconds later. A text popped up, in a meeting. Talk later. I glanced out the window. It was almost dark. The streetlights downstairs had just flickered on. At 6:30. I pushed open the front door. The living room light was off. Mia sat on the couch. Knees pulled up to her chest. Chin resting on her knees. Clutching her phone. She sat there perfectly still. Like a little statue. I took off my shoes and walked over. Mia. She looked up. When she saw me, the corner of her mouth lifted immediately, but the smile froze halfway. You're home. I didn't answer. I knelt down so I was eye level with her. Where were you this afternoon? At work. She blinked. Picking at the edge of her phone case without thinking. I told you already. You weren't at the office. I waited by your department for 10 minutes. You weren't there. I said. Your desk was empty. Your computer was asleep. Your coffee was stone cold. She went quiet. Where were you? She stared at her lap. Her eyelashes fluttering. Then she slowly held out her phone. The screen was lit up. Showing a text conversation. The contact name was Scarlett. You met up with her. She nodded. Still not looking up. What did she say? She looked at me. Her lips trembling for a second. Then burst into tears. Honey, she said, you like soft. Quiet girls, she said, you can't tell if you love me or if you're just staying out of duty. She said she's your backup plan. Am I really that loud? That annoying? Not gentle enough? Not good enough? Am I not good enough for you? She sniffled hard. Turning her face away so I couldn't see. I sat there and couldn't say a single thing back. Her shoulders started shaking. I just smiled at everything she said. Smiled for a whole afternoon. Then I got up and left. I stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes after. Just letting the wind blow on me. I wanted to call you, but I didn't know what to say. She's right. I am loud and annoying. I'm nothing compared to her. I can't talk right. I can't dress right. And she's the one you used to like. Mia. She stopped. Sniffling as she looked at me. The deal's off. She blinked. What? Tomorrow I'm calling her. The partnership's terminated. I laced my fingers through hers. That backup plan of hers. I'm shutting it down. Today. Mia's lip trembled. Tears still falling. But the corner of her mouth twitched upward against her will. But the deal's worth so much. Not worth you crying all night over. She stared at me. Tears streaming down her face. But grinning as hard as she could. Then put it on speaker when you call her. Fine. And record it. Fine. And post about it on social media. Mia. Don't push it. She finally laughed. Throwing her arms around me and burying her face in my chest. Half crying, half laughing as she punched me lightly. You just said it wasn't worth me crying all night. But one social media post is too much. I held her tight. Pressing my face into the top of her hair. I'll post it. I said. Pin it to the top. Is that enough? She mumbled an into my chest. Then sniffled and said. Best bandit chief ever. Go wash your face. Carry me. Walk yourself. I'm not washing if you don't carry me. I sighed. Then bent down and lifted her off the couch. She clung to my neck. Still sniffling a little. But already humming under her breath. I carried her toward the bathroom. She rested her head on my shoulder. And after a minute she mumbled. Honey. She looked really nice today. Oh. Really nice. Low-cut dress. So curvy, don't you always like girls with more up top? The corner of my mouth twitched. Who do you think is prettier? Me or her? You. Why'd you say it so quiet? Mia. Ask me one more time and I'm putting you down. Okay. Okay. I'm done. She squeezed my neck tighter. Grinning so wide her whole face shook. Best bandit chief ever. I carried her into the bathroom and set her down on the counter. She stared at her reflection for a second. Then said. When I post tomorrow. I'm using that photo of you cooking. Whatever you want. And I'm gonna add that thing you said about her. Mia. Okay. She grinned at my reflection in the mirror. Never mind. I won't. The water ran loud as she leaned down to wash her face. Splashing water all over my sleeve. Our third wedding anniversary. I took the afternoon off and went home early. Mia was supposed to take off too, but a last-minute department meeting held her up. She texted me, 30 minutes late. Only 30. I texted back okay. I deveined the shrimp, steamed the fish, put together a whole table of food. Mia pushed open the door just as I set the soup bowl down. Whoa, she dropped her bag and ran over without even taking off her shoes, leaning over the table to gawk. You made all this? Who else? It looks amazing. She leaned in to look at the shrimp platter. How'd you arrange them? They look like a flower. Followed a tutorial video. She pulled out her phone and took photos. After snapping every dish, she tugged me in for a selfie. The table full of food and her huge smile in the background. She pulled me down by the neck to get in the frame. And when the shutter clicked, she was smiling so wide her eyes were squeezed shut. Posting this, she declared. Eat first. Post first. Then eat. She tapped at her phone. Then 3 seconds later held the screen right up to my face. Posted. Liam made dinner. My husband made dinner. Is that necessary? Totally necessary. She set her phone down and sat at the table. There was a small cupcake with 3 candles stuck in it on the table. She picked it up on the way home. Make a wish first, she asked. Eat first. Come on. Make a wish. She already had her lighter out. 3 tiny flames flickered to life, casting a warm glow on her face and making her eyes shine. Just one, she said. You make one. I already did. She closed her eyes, mumbled something, then opened them again. Okay. Your turn. I looked at her. In the candlelight, she looked even prettier than usual. Her hair in a messy bun. A few stray strands falling loose. A faint smudge of lipstick on her lip. Wish, she urged. I don't have anything to wish for. You could wish for me to get a promotion. Promotions are up to your boss. Then wish I get prettier and prettier. That one's useless too. Liam. She poked my bowl with her chopsticks. Why is it so hard to get you to make a wish? I looked at her. Then at the table full of food. Fine. One wish. I closed my eyes. This is what I wished for, to cook her dinner every year. For the rest of our lives. When I opened my eyes, she was staring right at me. What did you wish for? If I tell you, it won't come true. Then write it down. Mia. The candles are gonna burn out. She leaned forward and blew, putting all 3 out in one breath. All right. Time to eat. She clapped her hands. Then picked up a shrimp and took a bite. A little overcooked. I'll do better next time. But it's still so good. She grinned immediately. Better than that sushi place Noah took us to. Last week you said that was the best food you'd ever had. Last week was last week. She nodded defiantly. This week, my husband's cooking is number 1. She nodded as she chewed. Cheeks puffed out. A little sauce on the corner of her mouth. She talked nonstop through dinner, telling me about a coworker who'd stolen her idea. Even doing an impression of the guy pushing his glasses up his nose. It was dark outside. The warm yellow dining room light wrapped around us. Her bowl was heaped high with rice. And she was still piling more food on top. Iwachitea. Liam. She snapped her fingers in front of my face. You zoned out. Eat. MHM. I peeled a shrimp for you. She held one out to me. Here. Bandit Chief. I looked down at the shrimp in my bowl. Bandit Queen. She smiled. Her dimple showing. Her eyes crinkling into little crescents. I didn't eat it. I picked it up and put it back in her bowl. I peeled it for you. You eat it. She blinked. Then popped it into her mouth. Mumbling. Then I'll peel 2 for you next time. Deal. She smiled even wider. Her dimple catching the warm light. Her eyes bright. I picked up my bowl and started eating. Trying to hold back a smile. I couldn't. The doorbell rang. Mia was lifting the last bite of cake to her mouth. She froze mid-bite. Fork in the air. And glanced toward the front door. Who is it? She mumbled around a mouthful of cake. I'll go check. I set down my chopsticks and stood up. I opened the door. Scarlett stood on the porch. She was wearing a low-cut deep red dress, holding a fancy gift bag in one hand. Her hair was down. Her makeup heavier than usual. Her lipstick a bold, bright red. Liam. She smiled. I was at an event nearby. I heard it was your anniversary today. So I thought I'd stop by. Anger flared up in my chest. I stood in the doorway, blocking her way. Ms. Voss. This is a private occasion. This isn't a good time. I just wanted to drop off a gift. She lifted the gift bag. No ulterior motive. I promise. I was about to shut the door when I heard a clatter behind me. Mia's cake fork had fallen onto the floor with a sharp clink. I turned around. Mia stood by the dining table, staring at the door. At Scarlett. At that low-cut dress and that gift bag. Her face had gone white. She walked over. She poked her head out from behind my back. Ms. Voss, she said. Scarlett looked at her. Her smile still soft and polite. Mia. Happy anniversary. It's just a little something. My husband answers to me now. Mia said it slow. Every word sharp and deliberate. I cut his hair. She tugged at the end of my hair. Last week she'd insisted on trimming my bangs. Messed it up completely. And we'd had to go to a barber to fix it. I bought his shirt. She tugged at the collar of my shirt. Even his underwear. I picked that out too. Scarlett's smile faltered. The thing you threw away all those years ago. He's mine now. Mia's voice got louder. Can you please stop coming after him? Scarlett pressed her lips together and looked down. When she looked back up, her eyes were red. Her lip bitten white. She looked perfectly, deliberately hurt. Mia. I don't mean any harm. She looked over at me. Her eyes pleading for help. Liam. Is your wife misunderstanding something? I really just came to drop off a. I stepped to the side. I moved Mia fully behind me, shielding her. Scarlett. My voice was cold. She froze. My wife's done talking. Liam. Do you have anything else to say? Scarlett stared at me. Tears welling in her eyes. Her voice starting to shake. You weren't like this before, you used to. I was 20 years old back then. I said. Now I'm 30. Back then I didn't have a wife. Now. I glanced over my shoulder. Mia was standing on her tiptoes, peeking half her head out from behind my shoulder. Her mouth set in a tight line. My wife called you a manipulative tease. I said. I think she was being too generous. Scarlett's face went deathly pale. Showing up at a married man's house hiding behind first love nostalgia. You'd be written off a TV show in 3 episodes. I stared her down. Every word sharp. Quit trying to stir up trouble. Then I shut the door. The lock clicked into place. The porch went quiet. The second the door clicked shut, Mia burst into tears. Louder than she'd cried on the couch. Loud enough that the whole building probably heard her. You yelled at her. You actually yelled at her. I turned around to face her. Didn't you want me to? I did. But she sniffled. Tears and snot running down her face. Her words broken by sobs. But you were so mean. I'll go easier next time. No, she grabbed my sleeve. No, next time. I don't want her ever coming back. I reached out to wipe her face. She stepped back half a step, staring at her shoes. Her voice suddenly small. She's so pretty and so curvy, and I just yelled at her like that. Do you think I'm a total shrew? You are a shrew. She froze. My shrew. I looked down at her. You should have marched right up there and slapped her across the face. Mia glared at me. You do it. I don't hit women. I chuckled. I reached out and pinched both her cheeks, pushing her lips into a pout. Listen to me. Tears still clung to her lashes as she waited. Mia. You're my queen. I said, looking straight into her eyes. Always. No matter what. Her lip trembled, then broke into a smile. She threw herself into my arms, half crying, half laughing. Her voice muffled. Say it again. Queen. Again. Mia. Yeah. I'd choose you in the next life too. She went rigid in my arms for a second. Then she cried even harder. Liam. Did you practice that line? Off the top of my head. You never say stuff like that. You never cry this hard. She lifted her head. Her eyes red and puffy. Then say it more often. She said. I like hearing it. In your dreams. She giggled and squeezed my neck tighter. Best husband ever. Just like that. She was back to her usual cocky, gleeful self. I didn't finish dinner. I want hot pot. I want 10 plates of tripe. She jumped up, wrapping both legs tight around my waist, clinging to my back and refusing to let go. I held her legs steady and turned to head out. Scarlett was gone already. She must have been too embarrassed to stay. The hallway was quiet. The evening breeze soft and warm. In the elevator. She leaned in and whispered in my ear. Liam. When you stood in front of me back there. You were so handsome. I smiled back. When you stood up to her like that. You were pretty handsome too. She beamed. Grinning from ear to ear. Smug as could be. See. We're perfect for each other. Bandit Chief and Bandit Queen. A match made in heaven. We walked out of the apartment building. The streetlights were bright, stretching our shadows long across the sidewalk. Warm. Steady. Safe. I carried my girl steady on my back. My heart light and clear. At our wedding 3 years ago. I'd said in front of everyone that for the rest of my life. Only Mia would get to throw her weight around and be as stubborn and spoiled as she wanted with me. No matter how perfect or glowing the one that got away was. She was the past. This feisty, spoiled little queen right here beside me. She was my present. And she'd be my future. My girl had finally let go of her insecurity. And found her fire again. The evening wind was soft. Life was good. Hey there. Could you rate this story in the comments? Use a scale of 1 to 10. Please, I am begging you. It really means a lot to me. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit follow.